This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stock Box interview. It's Friday, it's the end of a crazy week in the stock markets, and I'm here with Alan Green on the Research Talks podcast. Alan, are you licking wounds like me and most other people?
Yes, it's I don't know about licking wounds. I feel like I've undergone amputations. Actually, it's been that severe this week. It takes us all by surprise. And listeners will know, of course, that I interviewed Paul Johnson. We published that interview on Friday, and we were talking about just that. And we used the term capitulation, and I think that's where we're at. Because investors are offloading and just getting out, and those that aren't staying the course are just selling out because of through blind panic, if nothing else. And that's a horrible place to be. I've been there before. We've looked in the markets before, and I can remember back in 2007 when we had the big credit crunch there, looking at my portfolio, which had shrunk beyond belief, and speaking to some old hands in the market, and they just said, "Oh, that happens. This is a market correction. Don't sell now. Hang in there. If you're feeling brave, now is the time to buy if you have spare cash." But of course, that process probably goes against every instinct in your head that's telling you to sort of buckle down and try and just hold on to what you've got.
Yeah, it's the thing, isn't it? You don't know when what's going to happen. I think that's the scary point. You just don't know, and you think, should I protect capital? Should I hang in there? Do I dare to go against everything that feels wrong and actually buy more? I suppose. I mean, if you went through the 2007 crash, does it make it any easier? I mean, if I'm honest, this is the first big correction I've seen when I've been the most invested in the stock market. So it's particularly uncomfortable. Does it get easier if you've been through one before?
Well, yes. Yes and no. I mean, it's horrible to be in another one, but at the same time, I remember what happened last time, and I had some cash, and I went big time into Rio Tinto, which was at multi-year lows at about £16, and bought into that and bought into the banks, and that really powered my recovery. And I was able also to trade on some other stocks, and the recovery was pretty quick. And within, I think, a few months, it was crisis what crisis. And I know Paul had the same. Said he had went through the same process in 2010, and kind of ignored the market. He was thinking of getting out, ignored the market for a day or so, and everything came back, and his portfolio went to 10 times where it was. And of course, we're still seeing M&A activity. Companies, nothing's changed. The companies are still progressing the work. They're progressing the projects. ARC Minerals, of course, this week, the collaboration with Anglo American, that's the sort of thing the small cap mining companies are seeking. And when it happens, we saw a fairly muted response. I think the shares are up about 35%. But in better times, that could double or treble in a day, and that's why we're all in the market.
Okay, well, good. Well, some nice reassurance there, Alan. Thank you for that. Well, let's talk about some opportunities then, perhaps, in this space. We've got some AEX Gold, of course, significant land package in Greenland, and they've had some significant news recently. They've actually changed their name, I think, this morning to Amaroq.
Yes.
So you can tell us about Amaroq Gold and also Poolbeg Pharma.
And Poolbeg Pharma, that's right. Yes, indeed. Poolbeg is developing a portfolio of clinical assets to fight infectious disease, and I know there's been some concern on the bulletin boards about the in-specie shares issue, which I'll address when we get to it. But first of all, AEX Gold, epic code AEXG. Of course, Mark, we did speak about AEX a few weeks back. Announcement today, they've changed their name to Amaroq Minerals. It's more in line and in keeping with the polymetallic nature of the mineral assets that they hold in South Greenland, and of course Amaroq Minerals will be the name from here on in. Amaroq means Arctic wolf, so of course very appropriate given that they're in Greenland. Amaroq has a range of assets in southern Greenland. The flagship at the moment is the 100% owned Nalunaq gold mine, which historically has produced decent ounces of gold. And I spoke to Elder Olafsson, the CEO, earlier this year when I interviewed him, and he spoke about the Nalunaq project and how in a sense, the gold that existed within the mountain was akin to a slice of cheese and a cheese sandwich. And when the drilling was undertaken by the company, they were intersecting the gold at the same level all the way down through this sort of layer of mineralization. And I thought that was a fantastic analogy. And certainly, Nalunaq, when the company was engaged in exploration last year, estimated 250,000 ounces of gold at 18.5 grams per ton. All of the grades that have come out of the area and with the other projects as well have been exceptionally high grade. Some $100 million has already been invested into Nalunaq. That's with the roads and infrastructure. And the company has said that there's exploration potential for up to 2 million ounces. That may well now change, of course, on the back of the announcement the company made on April the 4th, when they drilled that cheese sandwich analogy. This is on the side of a mountain, if you imagine. They intersected gold in 33 holes, and the results were much better than expected, and confirmed the drilling work confirmed the presence of a fourth high-grade gold zone with new discoveries in Valley Block and also Welcome Block. So new, an extension, if you like, to the existing geological anomaly that existed there. Some of the best samples, 0.5 meter at 139 grams per ton, and a weighted average across the asset assay results of 1.43 grams per ton, which that's real top grade stuff. SRK Consulting are currently developing a new mineral resource estimate, and of course the PFS is being undertaken by Halyard. There's a lot of work being done on that by Halyard with the feasibility study, and we'll be seeing results from that ongoing. But that's just a part of the story, and certainly this year Amaroq have expanded extensively their reach into southern Greenland. Historically, they had up to 4,000 square kilometers, but at a stroke, the company announced on yesterday, in fact, they'd acquired a further 3,500 square kilometers from Arano Group for no consideration and a royalty on any future production, which is a fantastic deal. That covers licenses 2020 or 2020 41 and 2021 11. And what that means is that Amaroq is now the largest license holder in South Greenland, and it's also the third largest in Greenland overall after Anglo-American and Greenfield Exploration, giving it a total land coverage of 7,615 square kilometers, which is huge by any standards. Looking at the other projects briefly, we have the Nalunaq project, which is the most easterly asset, which was discovered by Goldcorp in 1998. Sampling and groundwork sort of underway there. Then we had the Sava prospect, which really added to the polymetallic nature of the AEX gold offering, with perspective for copper, gold, uranium, zinc, nickel, and also rare earths. And some work was undertaken on Sava. Those results were announced on April 12th. Historic grades of 3.5% copper, 3.7% zinc. And an airborne survey with mapping rock and geochem has now identified a mineral belt which really extends not only through Greenland but also into Canada, moving west, and Scandinavia moving east. So this is now highly prospective for metals to fuel the global energy transition, and that's a significant step forward for the group with the Sava prospect. Then we have the Saka asset, which is prospective for platinum group metals, gold, nickel, and copper. The copper min boot, which is historically produced copper, and also the Noriam asset, which is prospective for graphite, which of course is another key component of the clean energy industry and the EV industry moving forward. One of the key factors that's driving Amaroq's success is the very close working relationship that it has with the Greenland government. And the Greenland government are very supportive for companies coming in and exploring and developing assets. There's a quid pro quo, provided the company works with and employs the local community, then the government provides very good grants, and of course assists with training and all the rest of it. So Elder and his team are very much on the ground working with the Greenland government, and also employing and working with the local Greenland people to help develop the assets. Just to line this down in terms of full year results, on April 29th, the company announced it had cash at the bank, 27.5 million Canadian dollars, no debt, and working capital of 25.5 million. Elder Olafsson said that the results of 2021 had exceeded expectations, and then of course the final project that I've yet to touch on, which is the Vagar Ridge asset. And Vagar Ridge is an asset that's prospective for gold. A lot of rock chip work has been undertaken there previously, and again exploration on the ground there more than doubled the footprint, turning the asset into a multi-million ounce prospect, having discovered 4 orogenic gold veins. Some of the samples there were very high grade. There was one chip sample registered at 86.7 grams per ton, and also an aeromagnetic survey that was undertaken there identified 5 new priority targets. And also, as often happens with these high-grade prospects, you can just walk around and literally pick up chips from the surface. A scree sample chip weighed in at 9.25 grams per ton, and there it was, just sitting on the surface. So again, Elder sort of commented with that announcement, the potential for multiple mineralized veins gives Vagar Ridge the potential to become a globally significant discovery. So there's a great mix of assets offered by Amaroq Minerals, as they're now known, and obviously once they get boots on the ground at the new license areas in Orano, then I think there's a lot of hope that these licensed territories will offer similar potential to the existing territories. The shares they rose sharply, of course, on the news of the drilling or the drilling results from Nalanak, the Nalanak gold mine, and the developments at Savar and Vagar Ridge. But they've not really done anything, given the company have just nearly doubled their footprint in Greenland and become the 3rd largest miner in Greenland. So the company's worth 117 million Canadian dollars. That's probably around 50 million sterling, and I think if you run through that list of assets the company already has, I think that's a derisory valuation. I'd be very surprised. That it wouldn't surprise me if we were talking about a company worth double the current valuation, given where we are now. But of course, Mark, we've spoken about the markets, and we know where the markets are.
No, yes, we all know how the markets have been, Alan. Yes, but a good update there from Amaroq. So thank you for that. And I do like the CEO, Elder Olafsson. He's I'm not sure how old he is. He looks like a fairly young chap, but when I've spoken to him, he certainly knows what he's talking about, and seems definitely like one, a good, trustworthy CEO who really wants to build something significant here, and seem to be doing it. So yeah, that's one big tick in the box for me with that company, just with the CEO and how the board are structured. But it's exciting, Greenland. I think it's a new thing on my radar this year. I think it should be a new thing on lots of people's radars. I think we could see a lot coming out of there, and particularly AEX Gold with their footprint. Yeah, I think that's a compelling investment opportunity.
Well, I think with the grades as well. I mean, the grades speak for themselves. But I'd echo your sentiments on Elder. When I interviewed him earlier in the year, he does it. He looks a very young fella, but I think he's got a huge amount of experience, and he knows Greenland very well indeed. He's done an awful lot of work there in the past, and he's worked to develop other assets. So he's very much he's got great experience on the ground, but also equally he's a great CEO. He's articulates the investment case very well. But as I say, I expect AEX Gold, or Amaroq Minerals as they're now known, I would expect a very strong snapback, because the valuation now, or the nascent valuation now within that company, is huge.
Yeah, indeed. Excellent. Well, thank you for that, Alan. So the next company, Poolbeg Pharma.
Poolbeg Pharmaceuticals. Yes, we've spoken about Poolbeg before, and of course, Mark. So the shares are currently trading at 5.3p mid price, and of course, with that gives it a market capitalization of 26.7 million. If you look at the chart, it doesn't make pretty reading, but then again, the charts of most companies nowadays, most smaller capitalized companies have had a pretty bumpy time. Poolbeg Farm was spun out of Open Orphan, of course, run by the eponymous Carl Friel, who's a veteran in the markets and has built many companies and assets and delivered an absolute ton of value to shareholders over the years. And what I like about Carl is he very much puts his money where his mouth is. He's got his own investment company, and he will take big stakes in the companies and back his own judgment. And that's key to me. If you've got skin in the game at the level Carl has, that's a very strong sign. The chief executive is Jeremy Skillington. Jeremy is a biochemist. He joined Inflazome Biotech in 2016. He oversaw the development of Inflazome, which they subsequently sold to Roche Pharmaceuticals, the Swiss pharma giant, of course, for $450 million in 2020. So a real track record of developing assets and bringing them to market. And of course, Open Orphan has been very much at the forefront of the human challenge and COVID testing with its centres in East London. It's been featured all over the national press and Sky and BBC and so on, with the human challenge centres developing a cure for COVID up in East London and of course elsewhere around the country. Within the group assets, there was POLB 001, which was an inhibitor, a vaccine client or a vaccine client with the potential to treat severe flu, other illnesses, including COVID, and a raft of infectious diseases. So it was decided to focus solely on developing clinical assets, with POLB 001 being the flagship asset, and spin it out of Open Orphan, which indeed they did. And what it meant for Open Orphan shareholders was that for every 2.98 Open Orphan shares you held, you received one share in Poolbeg Pharma. And I'll come to the in-specie share issue in a minute, but just want to run through the company asset list first of all. So the business model for Poolbeg is to develop these early stage clinical assets into late stage assets using what they call a capital light approach. So that would be to spend 2 to 3 million, bringing it to phase 1 or phase 2 clinical trials. At phase 2 clinical trials, often that's the point at which a company, like Roche or Pfizer or AstraZeneca might come in and do the heavy lifting. Pick up, pick up the big cost to develop onto the next stage. And of course, at that point, Poolbeg either sells on or retains an interest and participates in the value further down the road. And certainly since the IPO last summer, the company has further developed its reach. It's completed a partnership with European Genomics to complete RNA sequencing for to develop Poolbeg respiratory syncytial virus disease progression samples. In October, it developed with Predict Viral, which is a marker system which estimates disease severity, and this was this Predict Viral platform was filed on behalf of Poolbeg by Open Orphan subsidiary hVivo. Then this year, an artificial intelligence deal was signed with 13 Biotech Incorporated to identify new drug targets and treatments. Also in February, a deal with Anabio Technologies to develop micro and nano encapsulation technology for an oral vaccine delivery platform, and this is just has been the case throughout the year. In March, the company dual listed on the OTCQB US exchange, and then announced a clinical trial agreement with the Center for Human Drug Research in the Netherlands, and an LPS human challenge study for the flagship Poolbeg-001 assets starting in June. The results of this trial are expected to be available at the end of the year, and the data will be attractive to potential partners. And of course these partners being the big pharmas that Poolbeg will be working with. And then in May, in fact early this week, the company announced it had signed a deal for its lead asset Poolbeg-001, a manufacturing contract to develop the asset, so they could take the asset through and develop for partnering and monetization. And Jeremy Skillington, the chief executive, said that it's got huge potential to address several disease indicators beyond severe influenza, so underlining the potential of the lead asset. Also this week, Jeremy Skillington and the company attended the melioidosis conference. Now, melioidosis is an infectious disease that's prevalent in subtropical areas, particularly in northern Australia and Southeast Asia. And one of the assets that Poolbeg now owns is Poolbeg-003, which is a pre-clinical melioidosis vaccine. So this has been spun out of Dublin University, so that the Dublin University has partnered with Poolbeg to develop this asset, and of course the attendance at the conference will increase the visibility of the asset, and no doubt Jeremy is speaking with companies to develop relationships to develop the asset. So finally, what's I think the major factor that's really held back Poolbeg shares in this year is this distribution of specie process. So a major shareholder came along and bought a chunk of the in-specie shares, but the remainder are being distributed amongst open orphan shareholders, and there have been lots of complaints that the shares are taking a long time to reach the account, and that I have to say that often happens. I think if there's an IPO process, or if there is a distribution of specie process such as this one, the administrative challenge is quite considerable, and really it's got to go through the registrars. It's got to go through, of course, or the shares have got to be lodged into CREST and then distributed amongst pool nominee accounts or certification. And although that process was triggered at the end of April, of course here we are 2 weeks down the road, and some people are still waiting for their cash. it will be there, I'm sure, certainly within the next week or so. But I think the company have been surprised, I think, at some of the reaction of shareholders on bulletin boards. So I just wanted to address that point, because these things do take time, and I've been in the markets for many years, and I've seen many such events take place before. But to summarise, Poolbeg, the shares now really are at just off the absolute lows of the year. The year low was 5p, so we're just above that. And I think the momentum is building in the company. There are deals being done, and once this trial commences in June, and I'm sure once we hear developments on the other assets, then we're going to see some substantial progress from the group in the second half of 2022.
Okay. Good. I have to get a bit of a timeline there, Alan. You are right. Things in the stock market always take a lot longer than you think. These kind of administrative issues always take a heck of a lot longer than people would like. But, you kind of have to just get used to that and take any timelines with a pinch of salt and just get through it. It always takes so much longer.
Yeah, they do, and I don't think also, just to add, I'm going to stick with my Poolbeg shares because there's huge potential. I think Jeremy's track record speaks for itself, and we will see a very decent uplift from the company. So if it takes a few weeks longer, it doesn't matter. You're still going to get the shares. I think the main complaints come from people who just want to sort of offload the shares and get the money in their accounts. So, but either way, it will happen.
Yeah, it will happen. Okay. Well, thank you for presenting the case there for Poolbeg Pharma. So I wish you a good weekend, Alan. I'll be quite pleased at 5 o'clock this evening, or 4:30 when the markets close, or even later when the New York exchanges close, and we can have a quiet weekend, hopefully, and see what next week brings. And next week's interesting, isn't it? Next week's a little bit exciting because... yes, of course, the UK Investor Show is on. Stockbox are going to be there. I think I said that last time. And Stockbox 22, anyone who does want to get a free ticket, please use Stockbox 22 on the UK Investor Show website. But we're going to do a Research Talks live, aren't we, from the UK Investor Show, from the Stockbox stand in the morning. So time to be confirmed, but I think it's going to be in the AM. So I look forward to that. It'll be the first time we're doing the Research Talks podcast live. It'll be on video, so it's exciting. So I look forward to meeting you in person for the first time. This is research. This is number 90. This today is number 90. We've done 90 recordings, and we still haven't met. So 91, we will meet, and we will be on camera together. So I'm looking forward to that, Alan. So we will do that live. From the Investor Show on the next Saturday morning.
I'm looking forward to that, Mark. It's going to be great, and I think the show is going to be. I went to the Master Investor Show earlier this year, which was very good. But I think the UK Investor Show a bit later in the year, and of course now I think everyone's come out of lockdown, and a lot of companies are attending. I know I spoke to Paul yesterday. Paul and the directors at Power Metal will be there, so it's going to be a chance to meet up with a lot of companies and talk to them. And yes, but I'm very much looking forward to our research chat, Mark. We'll have to decide which companies we're going to discuss that.
Yeah, so we can put a tweet out and ask people, can't we, what companies they would like to be discussed, and see what kind of response we get. But it should be fun.
That's a very good idea. A very good idea. Yeah.
Okay, Alan. Well, as I say, have a pleasant weekend, and I will see you next week.
Thanks, Mark. See you next weekend. Looking forward to it.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like, or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter, and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stockboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.